So class in session.
Hey guys, today we're going to be discussing this paper. It's called Penis Size Interacts with Body Shape and Height to Influence Male Attractiveness. What this paper breaks down is, yes, size matters, but it's talking about a specific aspect of size and how this plays with these different attributes. Guys, you really want to stay tuned for this because we can actually learn a lot from this study and really how to life hack our situation based on your current situation.
Life hacking, baby.
So as always, we're going to start with the background. Guys, I love this paper. I'm going to leave a link below because, like I said, if you're not reading the intro, you're missing so much. In this background, they actually talked about how there's a lot of theory about how evolutionary humans have adapted a larger penis than compared with, some of our contemporary other mammals in the world, and how that has partially been driven by natural selection, and that's a hypothesis. But in particular, they've looked at many different psychological studies to determine, do women have a preference for size? And the data is actually mixed. There's some studies that show they prefer a longer penis. There's some that say they prefer a wider penis. And then there's actually quite a few studies that say women don't have a preference whatsoever. But there's not really been any that have had kind of clear data. That's what they've been trying to do with this study here. So what they did is they had over 100 women assess different male body types based on how broad their shoulders are compared to their waist, so like a shoulder to waist ratio, how tall they are, and actually their flaccid penis size. They made all of these different models and they modified each of the models and had women look at least like 35 to 50 different models and rate them based on their attractiveness. And of course, they did not tell the women like which attributes were modified. Like, oh, this guy's taller, what do you think? They just showed them the picture and said, rate their attractiveness 1 through 7, with 7 being the highest. And of note, this was specifically sexual attractiveness that they were rating. And guys, the results, not really a surprise. They had a very linear curve, meaning the taller you were, the larger your flaccid penis, or the broader or the higher your shoulder to waist ratio was, all led to increased levels of attractiveness. Oh my gosh, surprise, surprise. But the actual strongest linear correlation, meaning the strongest correlation between what they found attractive, was the shoulder to waist ratio, guys. And it is important when we're looking at the people rating these studies, like in this case, what was their demographic? Well, it was women between the age of 32 to 20 with a mean age of about 26, an average age of about 26. Of this, about 72% were from European descent, 20% from Asian descent, and the rest were just other. So there was some pretty interesting, I'll just call it selection bias in this, meaning what female attributes actually led to certain male attributes they selected. Of course, this one's kind of a no-brainer, but the taller the female was, the higher attractiveness she found height in a male. Kind of a no-brainer there. But this one was pretty interesting. The heavier the female, meaning the higher the body mass index, BMI, the more obese she was, actually the stronger she rated the penis size on male attractiveness. So the bigger she was, the more she valued a larger flaccid penis size.
You got me.
Maybe this is a no-brainer as well, but they also correlated gaze time, how long they looked at a picture before selecting the attractiveness. And of course, there was a longer gaze time, meaning they were looking at the pictures longer in the men that had larger flaccid penises. So here's where things get a little spicy in the discussion section, because this is a very well-written paper and they actually break down their results in the discussion like a good paper should do, unlike that P-Long study. But in this, they said that the larger the flaccid, the more attractive. However, this is limited only up to the point of about 7.6 centimeters. For all my people in America, that's about 3 inches, guys. So a 3-inch flaccid penis. That's not that big, guys. And you're saying, oh, Hank, big and judgmental. No, guys, the average flaccid penis size, at least, here in the West, is about 3.6 inches. What they're saying is the larger the flaccid penis got, up to 3 inches, there was the bigger it got, the more that increase in attractiveness was. But up to about 3 inches, it actually cut off. So compared to 2 inches to 3 inches, they rated the 3-incher way more attractive than if somebody went from 3 inches to 4 inches. They just rated them a little bit more attractive. So that's pretty interesting. Both height and penis size has the same effect on attractiveness, guys. We're gonna break this all down, guys, so stay tuned. This study also, they report, it contradicts other studies that say, yeah, penis size doesn't matter. Well, they actually brought up several of the papers that actually said that it makes sense that women prefer penis size because there's papers that demonstrate that there's a higher rate of penetration O's in women in men that have like a larger penis, or especially a longer penis. Therefore, like women that have more like penetrative O's prefer a longer penis. Now, this was an interesting piece of data that I hadn't come across before, and it actually gave evidence, here, the penetrative O's that women get are actually more pleasurable than the other types, and like actually correlates with like higher quality of life and overall happiness, which I thought was a very interesting paper. We might have to do a separate video on that paper here. They also found that size was most critical in taller men. What that meant, that if they had a very like tall model, even if it was proportionally the same, or if it was the same size as like one that was on a shorter guy, the women were more likely to negatively view the same size penis because it looks proportionally smaller on the taller guys. For all my tall guys out here, youch.
Oh, Carlos declined.
Embarrassing.
Carlos declined.
By the way,
So what are the flaws of the studies, guys? I mean, like, no studies without flaws. This is no exception. So number one, small selection size, only 105 women. Number two, these weren't realistic models, guys. Like, you saw what these pictures look like. They're just kind of like these 2D representation that is a little bit hard to actually picture and doesn't translate to like real live men. They looked at multiple different variables. They did it in a very, very scientific way using like multivariate analyses and all these different like statistical means to go about it, but still they modified height and they modified muscle mass, for lack of a better word, and then they varied the penis size as well. It's always tough when there's multiple different variables that are involved. And obviously, guys, this study is using flaccid penis size. Of course, one of the biggest flaws is that they didn't use erect size. Guys, there is a huge variation between actually like how big your flaccid size is to how big your erect size. And there's actually no direct correlation between flaccid size and erect size, especially growers versus showers. What the biggest flaw of this study is that the women rating these men are assuming that their increased flaccid size is going to translate to increased erect gains, but there is not that. So that is the biggest flaw of this paper right here. Guys, if you want access to these videos early, you want to message me, you want to have a telephone conversation with me, or you just want to support me, please check out my Patreon /DocHink. Most importantly, like, what is the good news from this study? Guys, waist to hip ratio matters the most. Like, I can't stress this enough, how important it is to be like physically fit and in shape. In this study in particular, they're not just saying, well, you need to have a low body weight. It means you need to try to have wide shoulders. I think I see a little bit there.
Not bragging if it's true.
And you need to have a narrow waist, so that wide shoulder to waist ratio is the number one thing that the women found most attractive. It had an 80% variance in attractiveness, just modifying that alone. So guys, I've said it before, take care of yourself. Work out, do everything you can to make your waist as narrow as possible, to be as thin as possible. And then if you can, on top of that, lift some weight, do some lateral raises, build up those lateral heads of your deltoids so you can be viewed as attractive as possible. Some of you guys are probably out here, I'm calling out you right now, watching this video, probably eating some crap that you shouldn't be eating.
I yield. Please, no more.
Put the fork down, get in the gym, do some cardio, thin up that waist, guys. Far more important. Like, that's the biggest takeaway from this study, that no matter your attractiveness, the biggest variance in your attractiveness is the shoulder to waist ratio, period, the end. What's the other good news, guys? Flaccid size matters. In this study, they only looked at flaccid size, but guys, it's incredibly easy to increase the size of your flaccid penis. Incredibly easy. There's studies like this extender study here that show that in as little as 6 months, depending on what you do, you can increase your flaccid size by almost an inch. Erect size, much harder to increase, but absolutely possible to increase your flaccid size very easily. There's things like really any form of PE, okay, is going to lead to an increased flaccid size. In my opinion, biggest bang for buck is pumping. Pumping is absolutely going to like revolutionize your flaccid size, guys. I think pumping is pound for pound the best enlargement exercise, period. And honestly, nobody's going to change my mind about that. The other good thing about this study is that they said that, yeah, height, obviously it'd be nice if everybody could be tall, depending on your genetics. And if you don't want to pay like several $100,000 for one of these like height enlargement exercises, let me know if you actually want me to cover that. Literally surgeries that can increase your height by up to like 4 to 6 inches. But I digress. If you're not tall and you're one of my short kings out here, this study is showing that, yeah, all you got to do is increase your flaccid size and you can increase your level of attractiveness. And that is actually pretty easy to do, all things considered, guys. There's even things like, even if you don't want to do anything physical, even just taking a high quality citrulline based supplement. So yeah, guys, I get it. On the one hand, it's like size matters, like, oh yeah, no shit. Like, of course it does. But then on the other hand, there's variables specifically like flaccid size matters, and it doesn't matter as much as actually being in shape. So hopefully you learned something today. I had fun. I'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace and love, guys.